In Wales, apparently, they exchange wooden spoon carving.
Oh. That's special.
That's the Welsh.
Look at the lovely spoon I got.
Look at my beautiful romantic wooden spoon.
I'm going to hang it up here next to the other 20.
Hey, I'm Ange.
And I'm Beck.
And we are the Gold Diggers. Because we believe there's gold found in everyone.
Everyone is unique, interesting, and exciting with a great story to share.
And we aim to find it.
The question is, can we rise to the challenge and strike gold?
Honey, you're my sugar.
So today is a special day, being February the 14th, and that means it's Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
I see that you're wearing red today,
I
Beck.
am. I purposefully did this, Ange.
Oh,
I thought it's Valentine's Day. I want it to look like a love colour, so I've worn my red shirt.
Well, I'm glad you made an effort. Clearly, I did not.
Well, your
Which
hair
may
is
pretty much
very-
sum up our romantic life with our respective others. So
Your-
today
yes.
we are going to talk all things love and romance and Mr. Lover Lover. Come on, Dave, I want to hear you sing that.
We're going to celebrate the day of love, Valentine's Day.
Yes, so we're going to look a little bit about what do people do around the world.
Yes. And what do you do, Ange? What's your kind of Valentine's Day?
We kind of do it like it depends on if we've really thought about it.
Yeah.
If we paid some attention to it.
If you remember that it's the 14th of February.
We usually go into it and think, oh no, it's today, we better go out for dinner, and then everything's booked up and, so...
It's like, I've got you a card, but I just have to write in it after I buy it. No.
Like after 27 years of marriage, you kind of like, they can become a bit repetitive. So I guess we need to have a conversation of how do you keep the romance alive and what creative things can you do
Yeah.
to keep the sparks flying?
Well, I know in our family, we've always I know some people don't celebrate Valentine's Day. And let's be honest, there's probably a lot of people who don't see it as a day that should be made a fuss of.
Yeah.
I think for us personally, we've always loved to celebrate any occasion. So
Yeah.
even when the kids came along, we included them in that. So every Valentine's Day, I would put a little, those little red love heart chocolates?
Yeah.
They're little chocolates with the red cellophane on them. So I'd put that at each one of their breakfast tables with a little note on it. Happy Valentine's Day. Love mum and dad, just so they had the start to the day, whether they went to school and got a rose or not. They got a little love heart from us. So.
I guess I've done the same because we've only got one child, and so when he was small, we never really want him to feel excluded from the occasion. So I'd always write him a Valentine's Day card and just some things that I love about him.
Yeah.
And so he was always involved. And then obviously for us, going out to dinner.
Yeah.
And most people are out to dinner on Valentine's Day, so getting babysitters and things like that can sometimes be challenging for families.
Yeah.
And that. So we would maybe have dinner at home, or I'd cook a meal of sorts. And then, of course, Dara was involved in that. So we haven't, to be honest, often had just the two of us go out. But I don't feel like I'm deprived of it because we've had so many great experiences of holidaying together and all sorts of things. So, we've had those moments, but not necessarily on February 14th.
Yeah, and I think it's not even about doing a big, massive thing for Valentine's Day. I think it's nice just to acknowledge the day, isn't it?
But have you noticed, as you've got more into your relationship and the more years that you've been married, how it's changed over the years? Did you start off... How did you start off your Valentine's Days? What's the first one Tony did for you?
I would say when we started off dating, and Valentine's Day was quite a big deal, and there would probably be roses involved, like a big bouquet and a lovely dinner in a nice restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
But we've tried, similar to you, once children come along, it's more make a special dinner at home for everyone.
Yeah.
Or if the grandparents can babysit, then go out for dinner kind of thing. But then it's trying to get a booking. So sometimes that would look like a picnic on the beach or if you couldn't get a booking somewhere.
Is it you that's kind of prompted it, or has Tony done it? Like, what's the deal?
I think both of us. Like, some years I'll organise it. Most years Tony would organise it.
Because what is the expectation? Is the expectation that the man has to do something surprising and romantic for his wife?
Yeah.
Or like what's the right balance here?
I reckon in my mind I'd like him to organise the dinner, because I think as the woman you're kind of organising dinner every single night of the week. So it's nice if on Valentine's Day that's organised by the husband.
Well, I guess I'm like that, and I have that expectation. So, Noel's not much of one in the kitchen, particularly. Mine would be Domino's pizza, probably. That would be his ideal of a romantic meal.
A gluten-free Domino's pizza. Yeah.
So sometimes I've found that I've had to kind of instigate it, yeah. Which kind of then, I guess, can lose the romance a little bit.
Yeah. Has he ever surprised you with an organised Valentine's Day that you can remember?
I'm sure he probably has, but it can't be that memorable because I can't think of it.
I mean, we've both been married for almost 25 years.
Oh, I'm over that.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. What are we? 28, 29. Yeah, we are. Okay, I can't even remember.
I think
maybe
28 years this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're 29 in August.
25.
Oh, my goodness.
See, you lose count.
I really got that wrong, didn't I?
Yeah. So think of all those Valentine's Days
years.
you've had in that time, right?
That's right. It's hard to recall specific things, but
I can tell you, though, I remember the first Valentine's Day with Noel.
yes.
So when we first got together, Noel was kind of, I can't describe it, but he was probably a little bit over the top.
In what way, Ange?
With his affection and his attention to me. So, for instance, we used to have this shop called like Hallmark Cards, I think it was, in the UK.
Yeah.
And they'd always have this giant door size Valentine's card in the front window to advertise it was Valentine's Day. Come in and get your Valentine's card. But for Noel, a normal, ordinary Valentine's card wasn't enough. He had to buy the window display. So he goes into the window, he picks up this giant card. I mean, it's literally the size of a door. Takes it to the cash desk and says, and they look at him and say, what? What? You can't buy this. And he goes, this is the one I want. And they said, that's our window display. And he says, well, give me a price. I'll pay for it. So they gave him a price. They paid for it. They put it in like a cardboard case.
How did they work that out?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they went by size and multiplied it.
That would be one expensive card.
I have no idea how much he paid for it. This was before we were married or anything.
That's great.
So then he didn't drive back then, and he had to walk home, which was probably maybe 2 miles.
Was it a windy day?
And it was a pretty windy day. And he didn't know how to carry it, so he was like, he went sideways because he couldn't see if it was up high. So he had to go widthways so he could see where he was walking. But then the wind picked up.
You couldn't really put it under your arm, could you? It'd be
Well, no, because it would hit the floor.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, it was like, he
big
hadn't
card
worked the
we're
whole thing
talking
out at all. So it was a really windy day. And so the wind was coming right at him. So the card was bending around him, basically. So by the time I got it, it was a curved shape.
You need to cut out 2 eye holes so you can see where he's going.
But the sentiment was like...
That is classic. I love it. That is a legendary
But he
story.
used to be so full on, like... my dad, in the end, had to tell him, Noel, treat them mean, keep them keen. Back off.
Give her room to miss you.
Yes, exactly.
Aww.
So,
that's
anyway, he
classic.
took that advice, obviously, because we're still together.
Oh, lovely.
He's learnt, I think what it is, he's actually learnt my love languages. So if you're not aware of what love language is, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. And let's go through them there. Acts of service.
Words of affirmation.
Gifts. Physical touch.
Yes. And what's the 5th one? gift giving.
Quality time.
Quality time.
That's right.
it, yeah.
Yes.
So what would be your love language?
Oh, I mean, I've always loved words of affirmation because I'm a very wordy person. But I reckon in this stage of my life, acts of service is probably becoming a bit more prominent, and probably because of the busyness that I've had lately. Anytime someone steps in and does something, it's like, yay.
Yes, I need your help. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you for making dinner. It's just, yes. So it's funny how it changes. So
Yeah.
what would you say yours are?
Well, I think Noel fits into acts of service. That's definitely his love language, and he'll do a lot of things like that. So he'll like do the washing up, take out the trash, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Does the laundry.
Yes.
So he's become more that way, but he never was that way.
Yeah.
But I think he's realised that, obviously that's an act of love towards me because it helps with the household.
Yeah.
But I found it really difficult to know what mine is, but I think it is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
It's definitely not physical touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's changed?
Over the years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, if I think back to when we were dating or something, I'd probably physical touch and maybe acts of service, gift giving were probably more heightened in those. Whereas now, maybe because it's just become part of normal life,
Yeah.
that I don't hold them as high a value as perhaps words of affirmation.
Yeah, because I think relationships go through seasons, and you travel life together, don't you? So things do change and vary slightly. So
What would yours be?
Well, it's funny because when we were first dating and everything, well, for many years it's been words of affirmation. But yeah, like I said, probably now it's more acts of service. But Tony definitely won me over with words of affirmation because he's quite a poet. And I've actually brought in some examples of his poetry to me.
Oh, you're going to make me jealous now. Go for it.
I know it's a little sneak peek into the poet I married. And so actually, nice story. When we first met and started dating, I lived on the Gold Coast and he lived in Brisbane. And so we actually did the old-fashioned letter writing, which back then, I guess it was a long time ago in Bethlehem, and we didn't have emails really.
Long time ago in Bethlehem.
It was before that technology. Shows how old I am, or how fast technology has developed over the years. But we couldn't text. We didn't have Facebook. So it was phone calls and letter writing. So we used to write letters to each other as well as phone calls. But I remember always running down to the letterbox every second day, or probably every day, just to see if there was a letter in the letterbox. And he would write beautiful letters when I could understand his handwriting, but it just made me have to look at it a bit longer to find it. But there was one, like sometimes he would actually drive to my house to hand deliver the letter, which was really romantic.
What a romantic Tony you are.
He really is. So
I need to hear this now.
Here's a little taste. He actually wrote down his memory of the first time he saw me. So you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. He's called it From Across the Room. It was Sunday night, a combined youth supper in the city. We were young, I was older. I saw you enter the room, walking in with your friends, talking and giggling. I was prompted to notice your entry, kindred as if in some kind of way. And there you were across the room, like a butterfly flying solo in a field of flowers. You fluttered between clusters of friends, chatting and ever so slightly looking over your shoulder as if you had sensed that someone was observing you. You were happy, your laughter was sweet, kind and gentle. From one person to another you beamed with joy, and the room embraced your kindness, each flower blessed for conversation, as if kissed by the sun and moved pleasingly by the breeze of your attentions. From across the room there you were. I watched your flow, your nature. I was mesmerized, bedazzled by your gracefulness, captivated by your goodness, grafted by your innocence and attracted to your beautiful smile, I moved closer, still engaged in the conversations of my group, but totally distracted by you being in the room. Then in an unguarded moment, you unexpectedly glanced my way. Sideways, over the shape of your shoulder, through the frame of a stray ribbon of fine brandy-coloured hair that revealed the almond shades of light as it fell across the side of your cheek. Right there you caught me staring, fixed in sight, smiling, I'm sure, like a goofball, daydreaming even, but certainly adoring you, fixated, captivated, and unable to move my eyes away. It was all happening in a split second, but I remained locked in surprise for what I felt like an eternity. I didn't know where to look, but I knew my eyes would not release me. It was the way that you looked at me, like you saw deep into my soul. Then you smiled. You smiled back at me, and instantly my heart found a beat and rhythm that it had never known. Oh, love's sweetest concealment was not able to contain such innocent delights from my face as my mate elbows me and says, "What's up with you?" Bashfulness aside, this quiet moment shared with you across the floor of a crowded room, filled with competing conversations, noise and attentions, but in that moment, with all of the possibilities and articulation of choice, chance, attraction and distraction, it was God's providence and circumstance that led me to you, and the crowd disappeared. What was happening? The noise turned into silence. Love's song had begun to compose a single melody between two hearts. There in that moment, among hundreds of other people, we found each other, two halves of the same heart, distinctly different, yet perfectly complementary, beating as one, a bouquet of femininity and a frame of masculinity brought together, broken together and destined to be united in God's preservation of marriage in life and perfection in his purpose.
Mr. Lover, Tony! Oh my goodness!
How to get all that detail? Like, he's been
because he's written that like as if it's a novel.
Yeah.
Which is your language.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see how he won me.
Yeah. Good.
And this was
Well
years
played,
later,
Tony.
but
Well
that's
played.
kind of like the way he wrote letters to me, and it was very
No
specific.
wonder you were captivated. I'm impressed.
yes.
Tony, I've seen you in a completely different light.
Very romantic.
I'll read you something Noel sent me. This was this morning. Valentine's Day plans. 1, breakfast in bed. 2, chocolates. 3, watch a romantic movie. 4, dinner for 2. 5, regret eating 2 dinners.
I love it.
Followed
He's thinking
by-
ahead.
He is. Followed by, I love you more than coffee, but please don't make me prove it. That's about as romantic as it gets.
That's beautiful. That brought a tear to my eye.
As I said, he's not a man for words, but he
But he's
expresses
still
his love in other ways.
He's sharing his heart right there.
So he's always the comedian. So whatever he does, it has to have a laugh attached to it somewhere.
But it's so evident to anyone who knows you two that Noel just adores you. So even
Yeah.
without all those,
As I said, he
beautiful-
shows it in other ways.
Yeah.
So maybe he's not the kind of petals on the bed type of person, or the, organise a romantic meal
yeah.
as the sun's setting and all those sorts of things. So I don't get those, but do you know why I don't think I get that?
Yeah.
Because I think he's nervous that my standards are way too high, that he's never going to reach.
He's going to disappoint you.
Yeah. So I think it's probably better you just organise it yourself and I'll come along.
Fair enough. Yeah. So what we've discussed is fairly typical of how we celebrate Valentine's Day in Australia.
There's going to be chocolates, roses, romantic dinners, candles, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But there are different ways of celebrating Valentine's Day around the world. And we've done a little bit of research on this. And actually not everyone even celebrates it on February 14th. There's lots of different ways of celebrating love in different countries. So we can have a look at a few of those.
Yeah. So what countries have you got there, Ange?
Did you know in South Korea they have a series of love days?
Oh.
And women gift men on February 14th.
Well, there you go.
I bet that was designed by a man, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It's got to
reckon.
be.
But what do they gift them? A tea towel. This is to help you do the drying up.
So anyway, it says that women gift men on February 14th, right? But the men return the favour on White Day, which is March the 14th.
Right.
Okay, so do you know in South Africa, women pin the names of their crushes on their sleeves?
Oh,
It's like wearing your heart on your sleeve, isn't it?
I thought you were going to say pin them on the donkey. Pin the tail on the donkey.
So, and it's interesting. It says names, so you have more than one. This is who I've got the hots for, basically.
And maybe they come along and check the names, and then they go, "Oh, that's me," and so they claim the girl. Maybe, I don't know. That could work.
Yeah, well, what if they spelt the name wrong? Or
True.
But like, it's a bit like we send secret admirer cards or something like that in our traditions.
Yeah.
Have you ever received one of those?
Yes, I have in high school.
Yeah, I did too.
Still don't know who it was.
No, me either.
Pretty
Sent
pointless
it to myself.
Really. So okay,
I forgot
see you
about
tomorrow, whatever. That's nice.
Did you ever send one?
I can't remember.
I think I did. Yeah, I can't remember who to, but I remember sending one.
Yeah.
Because I was very nervous about how do you deliver it. You know, because it seems a bit suspicious saying, excuse me, like 2 days before, what's your address?
Or you stick it in the school locker or something.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, I know I have sent one.
Yeah.
So Argentina, they have Sweetness Week, and it's in July, where kisses are exchanged for candies.
Oh.
I'm just trying to think.
You want to be careful who you give
It's
candy
like
to.
It's like combining Halloween and Valentine's Day.
What country was that?
That was in Argentina, and it's all week.
Wow.
So imagine the lollies you'd get all week.
It's like, please don't give me a lolly. I don't want to have to kiss you.
Yeah.
You can keep your lolly.
Yeah. Is this worth a fizz bomb or a lemon sherbet? Don't know. Have you cleaned your teeth?
This makes you dubious of taking lollies, doesn't it? It's like,
Yeah, and if you're eating all those lollies, you're probably not going to be that kissable, are you, really?
No.
So in Denmark, they have secret lovers send anonymous notes, which is a bit like ours with cards.
Yeah.
France is very similar to us. It's purely romantic with dinner and special gifts. So Japan, I think that's similar to South Korea. Women give chocolates to men.
Right.
And they would then reciprocate on White Day. So we've got the answer to that question. It's chocolates that women give.
Right. I'm thinking dentists love Valentine's Day as much as they love Easter.
Yeah. Well, I don't even eat chocolate. So if I get chocolate. And then flowers die on me. Like, I just take one look at flowers and they die.
Oh.
So, yeah, Noel's got to get creative with mine. In Wales, apparently, they exchange wooden spoon carvings.
Oh. That's special.
That's the Welsh. To go completely out there.
So look at the lovely spoon I got.
Look at my beautiful romantic wooden spoon.
I'm going to hang it up here next to the other 20.
Could you please use it to bake me a cake?
You'll have to spoon your way out of
I'll
that one.
slap my wrists.
Anyway, now we're getting silly. Okay.
Yeah, Dave was going down the spanking route, but I wasn't going to say that. Oh, the Welsh. So in Ghana, they have a national chocolate day, and they focus on the country's rich chocolate heritage.
Right.
Did you know that there was chocolate in Ghana?
No, I didn't.
No, me either.
No.
Philippines is an interesting one, right?
Yes.
They have mass weddings on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
And I believe that the government actually pay for weddings that take place on Valentine's Day in the Philippines.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. That would be... Could you imagine all the organisation for Valentine's Day in the Philippines? Like photographers, caterers, just...
But have you ever seen it where they just have like these mass crowds of brides and grooms? It's kind of like the one ceremony.
Yeah.
And they're just... So they probably consolidate all of that, and they have the one photographer for like
everybody. I feel sorry for that photographer.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen them like get
amazing.
That would make sense, wouldn't it, to get married?
Imagine trying to get the family photo. It's like, can everyone get out of the way, please?
So there's many different ways that we can celebrate love, but why is it important that we celebrate love?
I think it's really important to bring it to the forefront, because you can go along through your life and things can get into a rut. And I think when we stop and pause and appreciate each other and have a day just to celebrate the love that we share, it brings that back to the top of our minds again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of Valentine's Day, is it makes us prioritise something that is or should be important to us. If we're in a good, strong relationship, that should be important to us. But often, particularly if you've got family, you've got kids, your relationship with your spouse often gets pushed aside because other priorities take over.
Yeah.
And so it is really good to dedicate a day for that.
And I think too, in a world that can have a lot of negativity in the news and everything, it's really lovely to celebrate such a wholesome, beautiful day, isn't it? Like Valentine's Day, celebrating love. That's a really nice place for people to put their minds to.
Yeah, and it's something positive that we can add into our lives. So I agree. It's great that we can celebrate that. There's a lot of conversation, though, around, do you really find the one? And so let's just talk about that a minute. Like, we've been married a long time. Yeah. Is there a one, or does the person you choose become the one?
Yeah, actually, it's funny because when I was a teenager, I remember people would always say, I would say, how do you know when you've met the one? And they would say, you just know. And that used to annoy me so much. I'm like, how do you just know? You're not telling me how you know. You're just saying you just know. And I'm like, that's such an annoying answer.
Yeah.
And then when I met Tony, I just knew. And and now I'm going to give that annoying answer. You just know. So it was like that thing he wrote about the first time he saw me. There's a connection, and we just knew. But I think from my own experience, and I believe from my faith, that God leads you in certain paths and leads you to the right person. For people who have come out of divorces and or their spouse has died, I also believe that God would lead them to the next one or the right person, or perhaps not. But there are a lot of conflicting ideas around this. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think, obviously early on in a relationship, the feelings you have for somebody are very heightened, and you in this kind of honeymoon period. So I think reality can sometimes be a little bit disguised in those moments. So then when life kicks in, routine happens, you've been with a person for a period of time, those little things that you maybe loved about them might become an irritant to you, right? So there comes a point where you may question, did I choose the right one, right? And I'm not saying everybody goes through this, but I think most relationships hit a point where they think, where you've settled in, and maybe that rut thing you talked about happens. And you might have to, it's at that point where you have to decide again. You have to continue to decide, did I marry the one? And so I don't think it's a case of, this is the one and everything's going to be great. This is the one that I've chosen, the one that's right for me. And I have to continue to decide that this person is the one, even when things aren't rosy, even when that honeymoon period has left. And so I think it's a daily decision.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even my mother-in-law, when we were first dating, she said, you have to daily choose to love each other.
Yeah.
And that is a choice, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that's probably my take on it. So do you marry the one? I think, yeah, in your case, your eyes met across
Sparks
the room.
flew, yeah.
And you had that moment.
You don't stay on that level always.
No.
You're not always looking at each other through the lens that you first met each other through.
Yeah.
Life becomes normal, doesn't
And
it?
they are going to irritate you from time to time. And you are going to question your decisions from time to time.
And we're going to
you are gonna
irritate
say,
them.
What was I thinking? But then you still choose to love.
That's
and you
it.
still choose that, they're the one I've chosen. And that's how you make a marriage work, when you make it successful. It's the daily choices that you make.
Right.
So.
And life, I think especially when life gets hard, the choice is even more important, because you're not always feeling the feelings, but that is where choice comes in. You choose to love that person.
And that's why I like Valentine's Day, because I think it helps us to help us to remember what is it that we love about this person.
Yeah.
Remember those first moments. What was it that drew me to them? For Noel, he's got an amazing sense of humour. It annoys me sometimes, but it also is the very thing that I loved about him and that drew me to him. And he keeps us laughing.
Yeah.
So, those things work in our relationship.
And it all began with a massive card.
That's now a curve. Actually, I don't even know what I did with it. I think I must have thrown it away.
I wonder if you're going to get another one today. Noel.
Let's wait and see, Noel. You've only got a few hours to sort that one out. So whatever you're doing for Valentine's Day, just make sure you enjoy and embrace the one that you love.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So that's it for today's podcast. You'll find us on all the major podcast platforms. The podcasts come out every Wednesday. We'd love to hear from you on our socials, the Gold Diggers Podcast. Tell us about your story so we can find the gold in you.
Easy as pie, lemon, apple or cherry. Loving you is so very sweet, sweet, sweet. How can it be such a piece of cake? And your smile is the icing. Loving you is a poem. Honey, you're my sugar.